Hey, welcome back to the podcast, Game Changers. I have a great guest on today, Stacey Abella. Stacey has an incredible journey to tell. She spent a lot of time in Europe, is now a clarity coach, anxious to learn what that's all about. So, Stacey, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really looking forward to the conversation.
And you have what an experience you've had in your journey to where you are today. I see in your background, you have your book. I have it right here. Read it. Secrets from my Travel Diaries, How One Burned Out Executive Reignited the Adventure Within. We have a lot of burned out executives. But
Yes,
before we get
do.
into it, so Stacey, tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up. How'd you get to where you are today?
Well, so my story is really about what my book covers, which is that I went out on a journey asking myself, who am I? And what do I want in life? What's important? I did that not once, but twice in my life. And that's really what my book is about, is the confluence of that journey then was about seeing the open horizon of possibility that I now have to create my business, to create the life that I want, and to really shed those things that I thought I maybe had to do or I should do, but I am set free from them now. I'm
Yeah, which
ready
is
to do what I want.
totally cool. And I
Yes.
love how in your book, you talk about, you've never had an opportunity to be so free, right? As when you went
Absolutely.
to Europe. But before that, though, growing up in Ohio, Sandusky, Ohio, correct?
So I grew up in Findlay,
Finley,
which is
okay, but
nearby there. Yeah,
okay.
near Sandusky. So that's where Cedar Point is. So that's where you get
Uh-huh.
to go on those cool roller coasters.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I grew up in a small town in Ohio and always just felt like there was something more out there. I always dreamed of all things international. So when I was a kid, we used to have these. We had a YMCA camp that we supported, and we used to have these foreign exchange students that would come. And I remember I was in single digits, probably maybe 7, 8 years old, and I remember we had a foreign exchange student come stay at our house, and I just adored her. And she one night was talking to her family in her native language. She's from Switzerland. And I just remember just sitting at the table across from her, just staring at her, just amazed. It was the first time I'd ever heard a foreign language. And I thought, how is it that I always understood her before, but now I can't understand her anymore? And it was just the most fascinating experience ever. And from then on, I was hooked.
But at that point, you knew you wanted to do some traveling. And then
Yeah.
so you went to Europe when you were 21, right?
Yes.
And so when you left, and it sounds like you had a really good home life, close to your parents. What did they say when you left to go to Europe? Because I mean, as a parent, I would be scared to have my girls go to Europe on their own, and they're 22.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and in the book dedication, what I say is I dedicate to my parents who encouraged me to go where they had never been.
Yeah.
And that was really a testament to them and what they were able to do. They saw that it was something that I loved, that I needed to experience, and so they encouraged me to go, although I'm sure it was, I mean, it was probably harder for them than it was even for me, right, to let me go,
Oh,
but I
I can
did it.
tell you for sure it was harder for them than for you. I mean, because in your position, you're like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to find out what the world is like. I'm going to learn more about myself. From the parents' perspective, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm letting my kid go halfway around the world and I won't know what's happening. I don't know who she's going to be meeting or where she's going to be sleeping or all that a parent worries about.
And that's a key point too, because you have to remember this was 1997 that I went off on this journey. And so literally you did not know what the other person was doing, right? I write about going and off in the darkness of night trying to find a payphone, right? To be able
Right.
to call my parents. And that was literally how it was, because I couldn't figure out how the phone worked in my apartment where I was staying. And it just made weird noises, right? And so it was a very different time, and you really were cut off from what you knew in the country you came from, right? And you were truly on an adventure. I think there are incredible opportunities to have adventures today as well, of course, but we are so much more connected than we were at that time.
Oh my goodness, for sure. And as I was reading your book, I was thinking back to, when I was 18, and we talked about this a little bit, I had a chance to go to Europe. My sister was studying in England, and so I went over there, spent some time in Cambridge, England with her, and then we got the old Eurail pass and traveled through Europe. It was cool. And so when I was reading your book, it kind of brought back memories of what it was like to be in a different part of the world and see the beauty that you don't really see every day here in the United States. Like when you were describing Amsterdam, I remember being on the train to Amsterdam, going through the fields and seeing the windmills out in the distance. And it's like, wow, that is real. I mean, there really are windmills. And then going to Amsterdam and experiencing the craziness of the red light district. And you talk a little bit about that in your book as well. But from your perspective, what do you think was the most beautiful part of your journey going through the different countries in Europe?
Honestly, I think the most beautiful part of the journey is happening now, is the incredible part,
Awesome.
because like when you talk just when you're talking just now about going to Amsterdam, right, about seeing the windmills, I hear that so much from my readers about how it inspires in my readers like yourself just this reigniting of being an adventurer, right, that you were in the past. Your story becomes intertwined with my story that I'm telling as I'm writing the book, and it's like we're co-creating this whole other possibility that can be our lives now. And so I think that's the beauty, the legacy that I left with them. And I did have some realizations on it, some pretty incredible things that I wrote about, wanting my diaries to be made into a book. Like I hadn't,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
really struck me, right? But at the same time, without really knowing what the impact could be, at that time, I left such a legacy that now I can see just what it can do for others to be able to really help you unlock a lot of that same journey, that's those same emotions, that same path of possibility that I was on at the time. It lives on through those
That's
diaries.
cool. That's cool. So in the forefront of your mind, it's more how does this impact others, not necessarily how it impacted me, or in your case, you. You're always thinking about other people and how will my story help somebody else get through their life or their journey or their experiences, which I think is really important and cool to hear. So kudos to
Absolutely.
you for that.
Well, thank you. But I think a lot of it is that we as leaders, right, when we take on that leadership role, we have to go first. Right? We have to sail through the storm. We have to sail through that narrow channel first. And then in doing so, then it enables others to realize that they can too. And so my hope, my desire for this book is that it can help others on their journey, so that I gained incredible amounts from being mentored essentially by my 21-year-old self through writing this book. But my hope is that the purpose of the book is far bigger than me, that it can also help others to get that same mentorship and to move on to whatever possibility that they may not have seen before in their life, that it has been there all along, but they maybe didn't embrace it.
Cool. So I do have some questions about the book, and just really, again, brought back some memories for me, but I want to get some better perspective from you on some of your traveling there. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the burned out executive.
Mm.
So what did you do prior to being the clarity coach?
Yes. So I was I was working in corporate. I had a corporate career. I had the life that I always wanted. Right? Even when and I talk in the book at 21, this was what I was going to embark on. I was going to take on the business world, and I wanted to climb the ladder of success. I wanted to have a family, right? Have it all, right? That's what we heard
Yeah.
about growing up. You can have it all, and I wanted it all, even though I realized later I didn't even know what it all even was. But I wanted that, and
Yeah.
that was a life that I created for myself. And then over time, I realized that what I always thought I wanted wasn't really exactly what I wanted, or it had been. But then there was a period of time I wanted something different. And so I began to step out on a journey to get my own clarity, right? That's the second journey that I stepped onto. And so from there, that's where I developed the clarity method that I now use with my clients to really get a new vision for your life and to go out and achieve that vision.
Awesome. And your business is called Wind in
It's
Your
called
Sails.
Wind in Your Sales
Yeah.
Consulting because
Yeah.
I use, so
Cool
I'm a
name.
writer. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm a writer at heart. And so I love analogies because analogies can step you so quickly into an understanding, right? Can step you very quickly into knowing exactly, like you could use, 500 words or use one analogy, one picture, and someone immediately understands. And so the idea is that my entire clarity method is built around a sailing journey. So you're starting out and you're realizing that you are able to raise your anchor of your ship, take the helm, find your lighthouses to guide you, and point your sails in the direction that you want to go. And in becoming aligned with who you are, that's the way that you get the wind in your sails.
It's
And
cool.
so that's the objective.
So when people are searching for clarity and they decide that they want to work with you, what can they expect? I mean, they obviously they're going to gain some clarity, but what's the process like for them?
Yeah, so I have a process that is very tangible, where each week you know exactly where we're going, where you are in the journey, and you're doing some reflections, and you are then putting those into practice. You're gaining the awareness, and you're immediately getting tools that you can begin to start bettering your life. And what happens is an analogy that I often use is, when you're so busy doing things, then it's just like the water gets stirred up and you can't see. It's like,
Always.
from the bottom,
Yeah,
right? It's just like all the
absolutely.
silt, right?
I
And
feel
so
like my
it's
water's stirred up all the time.
well, it probably is because that's the world we live in, a world of distractions, a world of just constantly doing. And that's how I was, right? But if you can take a little bit of time to just be in stillness and reflect and actually know what is true amongst the tsunami of emotions, right, that we live clouded amongst, then you can really move forward in a whole different way with that clarity. And that's what I shrink down the process into a very efficient, much shorter period of time. I mean, it took years, right? Decades for me to get where I've been. And so I want it to take you, no more than a couple of months.
Awesome. Awesome. And we talked about this before, the 5 a.m. club and how that has so contributed to where you are today. Me too. That is, I love that concept. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that's meant to you? And I've talked about the 5 a.m. club on the podcast. So to hear somebody else speak to it, I think is pretty cool.
Well, it's a game changer, right?
For sure.
Just like the
Absolutely.
podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so several years ago, I went to a workshop. It was called the Personal Mastery Academy, run by Robin Sharma. And he has this method
Author
called
of
the
the 5
5
a.m.
a.m.
Club.
Club.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, what that enabled for me is it enabled for me to have a structure and a space to dedicate time for myself. Because you do it first thing in the morning, which it's at first a little bit difficult to get up early, but then you get to the point where it just becomes automatic. And so I automatically will get up early now, and I slate some time to doing some exercise, some reflection, spending some time learning new things. But really, what that having that dedicated space to do that, that allowed me to start writing again, which was a passion that I'd had since I was very young. And so in doing that, I started blogging and writing, and then that ended up even enabling me to then write the book that I wanted to write this book for 25 years. And I, of course, didn't write it the same as I would have at that time, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it. But the point is as well that I was able to actually do it, to make that dream a reality. And it happened because I put that little sliver of time in the morning to really dedicate to my growth and my transformation.
That's huge. That's huge. And so if people apply that same methodology to their own life, the 5 a.m. Club, and having that time just that they can sort of dedicate to themselves and regroup, do some exercise, they can gain, at least begin their journey to getting some clarity in their life and finding out their purpose.
Absolutely, and also if you've done that, then you apply my clarity method, and you can get there very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole point is eliminating the excuses and having a structure that you don't have to think about. Oh, am I going to get up? Am I going to do this? Or oh, I have all these excuses that I don't have time to do this.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just this time is slated, it's dedicated, and you use that time. And what happens is over time, cumulatively, the results add up, right? The results add up into a book
Yeah.
or into whatever it is that you want to create, but it happens one step at a time, one day at a time.
Thing in baby steps, nothing all at once, because if you try to take it all on at one time, you'll lose perspective.
And you won't
That's
do it.
inevitable. Right.
Yeah, you won't do
Right.
it.
You
You'll
won't
just
do
give
it.
up.
You won't do it. Exactly.
Which is understandable. It's too much. These huge swings. I mean, it's not going to happen, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's how we get frustrated. And so it's really about, well, okay, I can't. I've got an intense corporate job. I can't write a whole book. Okay, but can you take 10 minutes to write every day? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I could do that, right?
Yeah.
If I build in that structure. And so it's really about
You
that
get
10
up at
minutes
5
of,
a.m.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or even if you want to do it at lunch, or you want to commit to doing it right, right before you get in the car to leave work, or whenever you want to do it. You don't have to do it at 5 a.m., but you just have to find a time when you can commit to yourself that you can do it, even just that small amount. And those 10 minutes over a year, you've got maybe a significant amount of writing that
Yeah.
has happened, or a significant amount of whatever it is that you're wanting to use the time to do.
Absolutely. But there's something to be said for the quiet of early morning. At 5 a.m. and truth be told, I even get up sometimes 4, because I
Mm-hmm.
can't sleep. And it is just it's so peaceful. You can get so much done and it doesn't have to be like work. It can just be self-reflection, reading, which I would encourage that time to be spent for, because it's early morning and it's peaceful. And for those that are not early risers, it is difficult to change, to get up early, but it's well worth it. No question
I,
about it.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely. I guess I just offer the small sliver of time option as, I'd rather see you do something, right, than say,
Yeah.
oh, oh yeah, I'm gonna get up at 5, and then you never do, right? If at
Right.
a minimum I can get you as a coach, right? If I can get you to even take 10 minutes at whatever time you can, eventually, then the idea of getting up at 5 and actually doing it is no big deal, right? But it's all about just setting something in motion. And so you're
Yeah.
starting to see the benefits. You're starting to integrate into your life that growth that you
Yeah.
gained from doing it. And then from there's, the things that you thought you could never do. Oh, I could
Yeah.
never do that. They become instead something that, yeah, you,
Again,
of
it's baby
course,
steps,
the next
right?
step. Mm-hmm,
Yep. So
absolutely.
let's get back to the book. Anastasia. Tell me, how did you come up with the name Anastasia?
Well, I think Anastasia represents wanting to be someone else for a period of time because
Huh?
it's safer.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like a pen name.
Mm-hmm.
So I named myself Anastasia. So the background in the
Yeah.
book is that, and so Anastasia was who I always wanted to be named because my name is Stacey, but Anastasia could be like it could be like Stacey could be the nickname for Anastasia, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always wanted a
Anastasia is the
nickname. Yeah,
formal,
to
you
go by
know,
somebody else, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my name is Anastasia. So my name is Anastasia in the roster at school, but I go by Stacy. Like other people who are able to say,
Just
Jennifer, and
sound
oh, I go
regal
by
like
Jenny. Yeah, well, that too, right?
Queen
And so
Anastasia.
exactly, exactly. Well, that's true. That's true. And so I think for a while it was much easier. I know for a while it was much easier to dig into some of this by being like, oh, but that's not me. You just write about things and like, oh, but that's not really me. That's Anastasia. You know, and eventually I think you get to a point where you can peel back the layers and own it. But I wasn't there right away.
Cool. That's that. I just was very intrigued by the name Anastasia. And okay, that's pretty cool. Came up with that name. It does sound like, royalty,
Yeah, and very
Anastasia. So
international, because a
very,
small town in
yeah.
Ohio, you're not going to find many Anastasia.
Probably not. Probably not. So when you were describing some of the stops you made throughout Europe, I was most intrigued with how you described your time in the Anne Frank house. Because having
Mm,
been there, that is a very moving uh, place to be. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's emotional. Describe how if you can remember back to that time and what it was like going through the Anne Frank house, because I think we've lost in today's world, we've lost some of that. Not everybody, if you ask kids today, who's Anne Frank? I'll bet many of them don't know.
yes, yes, but there's so much we can learn from her, and especially the
Oh
fact
my
that she was just
goodness.
the age that she was. I think going behind the bookcase that you read about and just going behind, seeing how she was hidden and seeing the whole life that she had in those small walls that her whole family was living within was just there's an energy still there that I think you can just feel, an energy of just sorrow but also hope that was just it was like a heaviness that you'd feel. And what really struck me, of course, as you can imagine from the journals, the diaries that I had been writing, was just looking at her diaries, and that was just to me so inspiring to read the words on there and to see that her writing, she essentially a path, kind of like what I was doing at that time, right? She was writing something that has become part of our history in a way that
Yeah,
people can actually relate to it, and that they wouldn't from facts and figures. We can't get our head around what it was to be in hiding and every day wondering if you
for
were
so
going to get
long.
discovered for so long.
Yeah. And she was young. I mean, we're talking what, 13, 14.
Yeah.
And just how you describe that though was just so moving. The other part of your book, many parts of your book were fascinating, so I don't want to, all of it was great. It's a great read. I would encourage everybody to get a copy. And it can be purchased on Amazon. Is that correct?
That's right. Amazon and Barnes and
Yeah,
Noble.
at Barnes and Noble. Cool. Um, Budapest. Your time in
Mm,
Budapest was really like, I mean, I remember years, of course, this was years ago, but when I was there, I remember that feeling of anxiousness, not knowing, and who to trust and who not to trust. So you're keeping everything close to you. And so describe what happened to you and your friend, especially your friend Clarissa, I think it was, in
yeah.
Budapest.
Yeah, so we went through that whole phase of being very afraid, very closed off, very guarded in what we did. But I think we, after a few days, became too comfortable, and that we had been having so much fun. We felt like we had conquered, right, the
Yeah.
unknown. And so we were on in our last day, we were waiting for the subway that then would connect us into the train station so that we could head out on a night train to go back to Germany. And at that time, it was very, very crowded on the platform. And now I would know that if it was that crowded, you don't just push into the subway with everyone else. I mean, it's worth waiting for that next one. But I think one had broken down or something and had skipped, because it was, I mean, not only rush hour, but it was just so packed you could barely move. And so we pushed in there, went carried along in there with everyone else. And what had happened was we were just so in the adventure. We had kind of lost sight of that idea of protecting yourself and staying vigilant. And a couple of individuals targeted us, and they worked as a team, and they pushed up against us, and this ended up stealing my friend's wallet and some of her other things. And so then we discovered that as we came out of the subway. And of course, it was a whole mess to try and figure all that out. And the even the luggage tags, we had left our luggage at the train station. Even the luggage tags, we didn't have those to prove how to get our luggage back. I mean, all kinds of things that even just to the people who took her wallet, it didn't mean anything of any value. But to us, it was just trying to undo all that and rush to get back. And we so wanted to make that train. We so wanted to get out of there at that point. And it was just a
Oh
a,
yeah,
a
yeah.
mad dash to try and do that. But our lives had been completely, turned around from what they had been in that happy go lucky
Right,
state that we were
right.
in
Yeah.
before.
It's so disconcerting when something like that happens. And we talked briefly about my time in Paris. And again, I was 18, right? Super immature, not reading through your book. I know I was far more immature than you were. I mean, you were a very mature 21-year-old. But I remember walking into a restaurant in Paris and I got kicked out of the restaurant. And I don't know why. And so the waiter came up to me and just started yelling at me. And I'm like, what's going on? Showed me the door, grabbed me by my coat, threw me out. And so I left Paris. I was like, I'm getting out of here. This
Mm,
place is ridiculous. So
right.
I didn't go to the Louvre. I missed out on a lot of Paris because I just wanted to get out of there because I hated it. I got kicked out of a restaurant because I didn't even know. I didn't know why. So unfortunately, those things happened. It was my immaturity that said, I just want to leave instead of putting it into proper perspective and enjoying Paris for all that it has to offer. But, reading your book and your experience in Budapest brought back that memory. It's like, man, there's just it's a different part of the world, and we need to be just aware of our surroundings and know that it's not what we're used to, and it's okay as long as we're safe, secure, and take care of ourselves.
That's right. But at 18, you couldn't have known that. You didn't have tools to really apply that. I'm sure it's not anything you've ever experienced before. And I was thinking, as you were saying, as you were sharing that, how fortunate it was that our experience of getting robbed happened on the very last day. I mean, it seemed like it was something we focused on that was very negative thing that happened, but think of the positive. I mean, we experienced the whole
Oh,
of Budapest. before all that happened, at least. So it was then a matter of kind of resetting back to, you know, the feelings around Budapest that we had before and the experiences.
So now let's go to probably one of the happiest moments that you described in the book, meeting your husband, walking into the
Oh,
wine bar.
yes.
So describe that, because that's a cool story.
Yes. Yes. So that I had a feeling that something was going to happen, that I really needed to be at that wine bar. It was interesting. All day I was kind of, things were kind of coming up that I wasn't going to be there, wasn't going to go there, but I just had this feeling that I should go. And so when I walked in, um, he was sitting there at the bar, and
Yeah.
I just sat down next to him. It was just an incredible, it was just the right thing. It was so natural. It was like being just in the flow, and we just started to talk as if we had always meant to be there.
Cool. That's just a great story, because it wasn't something that happened over time. It was something that happened almost instantly for you,
It did,
or
and
both
it
of you, I should
wasn't,
say.
yeah, it wasn't at all awkward. It just was.
It was
That was the
comfortable.
amazing part about it. It was.
Yeah, that's cool. That is a great part of the book. Just a lot. Again, I've said lots of great parts, but you know, that story is gives us all hope and comfort, and it's just something that we can enjoy along with you when we read it. So, a couple of takeaways from the book. If you want somebody to just have maybe 2, 3 takeaways from the book, what would they be?
So what I really want people to do is to be able to laugh and cry and enjoy the journey with me, and then be able to realize, oh yeah, that I'm getting all these life lessons along, and to come out different, come out changed, come out with a new perspective. And new
Mhm.
perspective is something very, very important to me. It's really my mission, is to shift people's perspective, because it makes all the difference in the world. And so when I have in the title, about reigniting the adventure within, that is really what I want you to see from the book, is that whatever you thought you couldn't do, you can do. Life can be an open canvas of possibility, as I write in the book. You know, you can paint your own canvas in the mosaic of life each day and make it what you want. Each day is a new, fresh opportunity. And so I really want people to come out feeling like they've been changed, and they can reignite the adventure within.
Awesome. That's awesome, Stacey. All right, so a couple of fun questions. Your game changers. So as you reflect over the course of your life and your journey, who have been 2 of the most significant game changers in your life?
So my mom and dad, really
Yeah.
more than anything. Of course, there's others that have, but my mom and dad for sure. And I always wanted to be like my dad all my life. He really set just an incredible example, and he always had he led our family with just such incredible poise and joy and love. And my mom played a different role. So she was always behind, like she was the wind beneath his wings. And I didn't understand until later the role that she played, but she was truly that. And she gave our family, she was the foundation of our family, and made things, they really made things happen. You know, he was kind of the visionary, and she really was what who made things actually happen. And I think the combination of the two of them have just been such an incredible inspiration into my life.
Boy, that's so wonderful to hear, because obviously they were a good team. They worked well together, and set a great example for you. And now you are setting a great example for your kids and for others. So it's great to hear that your parents were game changers. So now, if you had a chance to meet any three people, interview three people, current or in the past, so they could be living or historic, three people, who would you want to meet and interview?
So Cheryl Strayed and Reese Witherspoon have worked together on a project called Wild, right? You may have seen the
Okay.
movie. And I have been so inspired. So Cheryl Strayed actually wrote the book Wild about 15 years after she actually experienced it. And so I heard her speak through the John Cooper Signature Author Series several years ago. And I remember reading her book and just feeling this sense of awakening in my own self that I could, I could do this. Oh, I have that dream of that book that I wanted to write, and I can still do that. And I love that she and Reese have collaborated together. So I think it would be just incredible to be with the two of them working on a project. We're talking with them, seeing how they felt, right? Because Reese also, when she was playing that character, she had to go through just such an incredible amount of just emotions and feelings to be the sole person on the stage, right? In that movie, I mean, she was the movie for so much of
Yeah.
it, and she talks about how much that really meant. And I would say the other person that I would love to talk with is Mother Teresa. So a
Oh,
little bit of a different angle, but will capture. So I after amidst being in the corporate world, I took a break and went into the Peace Corps, and I was in Nicaragua, and I really identify with Mother Teresa's spirit of being able to just come into places where you don't know anyone, you don't even maybe speak the language very well, and to be able to come in and just make such an impact. So she just incredibly resonates with me the more that I get to know her story.
more people to resonate with Mother Teresa. Love,
Absolutely.
kindness, and giving. That's what it's all about. And if we had more of that in this world, the world would be a much, much better place for
Mm. And the
Stacey. Love to.
courage to step
Oh, for
out.
sure. Courage. Yes. Yes. We need more of that. Less fear, more courage. Stacey, great conversation. Thank you so much for being here on Game Changers. How do people learn more about you and get in touch with you to learn about wind in your sails?
Yes, yeah. So definitely check out my book, and we can go on a shared journey through that. That's available on Amazon, Secrets from My Travel Diaries. And then to learn more about my clarity method, you can get that at staceyabella.com. So it's STACEYABELLA.com to get to
Perfect.
know more of my clarity method that I offer to clients.
Excellent. Stacey, thank you so much for being here. I know that your book is going to have great success, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Secrets from My Travel Diaries in a movie someday.
That's my dream.
Somebody might play Anastasia. Who knows? Might be Reese Witherspoon. So
Might be.
best of luck. Best of luck with your book. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And I
you,
want to
Jeff.
thank my, you bet. I want to thank my sponsor, Magic Mind. So Magic Mind is this little 2-ounce green drink that I take every morning with my coffee, and it keeps focus and helps me with some energy throughout the day. It's got vitamin C, all kinds of other D3, B complex stuff I can't even pronounce, but it's good for you. It's called Magic Mind. It can be found at magicmind.com. And I thank them for being a sponsor of Game Changers. And everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning into Game Changers. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. And I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Leave me a review. I love reviews, especially good ones. So feel free to leave a review. That's Game Changers with Jeff Newkirk. And the website is gamechangerswithjeff.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today was a great day. Tomorrow will be even better. Peace, everyone.